Hi everyone. It's a beautiful morning and I have the sun nice and bright shining behind the camera, and I'm really thankful for today and everything in the moment. And I'm glad you showed up to be a part of this experience, hear my words, hear my thoughts, and hopefully maybe share some of yours. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the 12th house in astrology. And the reason why I'm going to talk about the 12th house is because I've had a very profound experience with the 12th house this past year. Because I have some really major planets in the 12th house. And the reason why I decided to make a 12th house video is because over the past few years, like past 3 years, I've been studying astrology, learning about it, and it's really changed my life just learning about it. It added a whole a lot of other layers to my life. And with learning about the 12th house, well, actually, when I first started learning about astrology three or 4 years ago, so far I've learned most of the basic things in regards to astrology. When we get to the more complicated things of such as how the planets align and how they take away from the power of another planet and how they conjoin those powers, gets a little bit confusing for me. Anything beyond that, I still need a lot of studying to do before I can move on to more complicated matters in regards to that. But one of the things that always escaped me when I was learning about astrology in the beginning was the 12th house. Now, I knew the first 11 houses pretty well, but the 12th house was a lot more mysterious because you couldn't really pin down the 12th house. It wasn't that physical. The 12th house was maybe mental or spiritual or somewhere within our psyches. It didn't seem like an actual place. So it's very hard to pin down, and I couldn't really understand it. Like the first house is your entrance into a new part of the world or a new part of your life. It's like the beginning, and it evolves the second, third, all the way to the 11th house. The 11th house is kind of like where you take everything that you've learned and you've gained and you share it with the world. You put that energy out with the world. But the 12th house, it's a lot more mysterious. Now here's what traditionally I've learned about what the 12th house is and what it means. They say, from what I've learned, internet, reading books, and talking to people, etc., is that the 12th house is about isolation. And it's associated with places like prisons, mental institutions, and hospitals. Situations where you're usually alone and you're left there to reflect and grow and make changes. Things like this. And they say it's related to endings. It's associated with endings, like the ending of a cycle. And of course, it's the end of the 12th house cycle. And they say that the 12th house is associated with the things within us that are hidden, that are holding us back, that are hidden. Maybe things that other people see, but we ourselves don't see. So I kind of knew all of these things, but I never really understood them that well. Until this year, 2020. 2020 has been a really profound year for me because I got a really deep lesson on what the 12th house is all about. And the reason why I got a really deep lesson on it was because this year started off with five planets in my 12th house. If you don't know, I'm a Pisces, and I think for a lot of Pisces out there, and signs that are close to the Pisces sign, your life is probably in the 12th house. You'd have to, look up your own stuff to find out. But yeah, this year it started off with a lot of major planets in the 12th house. I think around March. It happened. It started off around March this year. But around March, there was Jupiter, a heavy mover. Jupiter, which is about it's usually the good stuff that happens with Jupiter. It's about gaining huge amounts of wisdom. It's showing you the optimism in life. It really shows you what that part of your life is all about. Usually it's positive. And also, that also depends on what sign is in your 12th house, how positive it will be. And also there was Saturn in the 12th house, in my 12th house. And Saturn is about hardships. It's about maturing. It's about reality checks. It's about dealing with real life, dealing with the real physical world. Saturn is all about that. So Jupiter and Saturn were there at the beginning of the year. They're still there for me. And that just those two alone are really powerful planets to be anywhere in the same place. But there were 3 other planets there. I don't remember exactly. I did a video earlier this year. I think it was a closer look at today's situation, where I kind of talked about this. It was around early last year when all of this was happening. I talked about all of these planets lining up in that one area, and what it all meant. And of course, for all of you out there, like maybe 1/12 of the world are with somewhere in the same situation as me. So the rest of the world, you probably had this line up in a different part of your life. So it probably affected you in a profound way, but quite differently than it affected me or a lot of other people. And yeah, that set the cascade the cascade of events that have happened this year. This year has been, quite unpredictable, tumultuous even. Just sometimes, I guess you can say exciting. Sometimes you can say, depressing, but it has not been boring this year. And yeah, so with that, I had a really deep lesson about what the 12th house is all about, because this year started off with 5 planets in my 12th house, all in the same area. They were all in Capricorn. A lot of planets were in Capricorn, aligning and just all together and having a huge, deep influence on one another, therefore our lives. And for that reason, I got a huge lesson in what the 12th house is all about. So from receiving that huge lesson, I decided that I would take what I've learned and what I've observed and share it with all of you. There's nothing that can drive a good point or really describe what you're trying to display to everyone than a real life example. So that's what I'll do right now. I'll talk about real life in regards to my experience with the 12th house. And again, the reason why I'm going to talk about my experience with the 12th house is because I have some major heavy duty planets there. I have Pluto there right now. It's been there for over the past 10 years for me. And it's going to move out, I think, around in 3 or 4 years from now. It's going to move into my first house. But I have Pluto there. Pluto is just, it's the major underground seat of power that lies hidden, within us or below the surface. for whatever it represents. And Pluto's all about transformation. It's all about righting wrongs. It's all about revolutionizing things that aren't working anymore. Pluto's about just turning things upside down in order to make things work, which weren't working before. So I've Pluto there. Pluto's been there for me for the past 10 years or so. And I have Jupiter and Saturn there. Jupiter is all about expanded wisdom, knowledge. It really teaches you a lesson about wherever it is. And Jupiter, it gives you new optimism and faith about everything, because it really shows you like the possibilities. It expands the boundaries of wherever it goes to. So I have Jupiter there. And for everyone, if you remember, when Jupiter came into the mix early this year, that's when the you-know-what began. So I guess we have to think of this as we're being taught a lesson in some kind of way. It's supposed to be a good thing. So let's not get too caught up on looking at this too negatively, because ultimately it looks like it's supposed to be a good thing. And there's Saturn. There's Saturn there. Saturn's all about reality checks. I have Saturn there in my 12th house too. It's all about reality checks. It's all about stepping away from the fantasy world and realizing and understanding what's real. It's about real life. It's about hard work. It's about karma. So wherever Saturn goes, it just makes things very real. And those are the three major planets that were there. There were two other planets I don't remember exactly, so I won't say. I made a video about this type of thing around that time early this year. The title of it was something like today's situation or something like this. It was a 2-part video. But yeah, so my experience with the 12th house, for me, over the past year, and I'm going to use past year as an example, because I've had Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn there all together for the past year. So that makes it very profound. That makes me really be able to see what's going on and not just pass by my radar without me really catching what's going on. So it's been a really live year for me, because I've really felt the existence of those planets in my 12th house. And I've mentioned to you before the traditional description of what the 12th house is and what it represents. But this year, for me, I've been in quite the isolated situation. Been under isolated circumstances. If you see where I am right now, I'm in a rural area. I call it my rural paradise. And for me, it's a gift and it's a curse. I love being here. It's amazing. I feel super healthy. I feel like I could really focus on things I need to focus on. I feel like I could really be myself. So this has been truly a blessing for me. And the whole reason why I decided to come here to this place, which I did not expect it to be the way it is, so natural, so pure. I expected it to be just quiet and boring and nothing, but it ended up being just a whole lot more than that. But the whole reason I came to this place was because of when Jupiter moved into Capricorn, into my 12th house early this year. When that happened, you know what happened? The virus happened. So that's what ultimately ended up making me make this decision to come here, and it ended up being a blessing. So isolation, yeah. I'm living in in somewhat isolation. And prior to coming here, I lived in a city, and you would think a city's not isolation, but for me, it was isolation, because I expected the city to be, you know, a lot more fun, a lot more lively, to be talking to lots of people, to make lots of friends, and really just really expand my social circles. But it didn't work out that way for me. The contract, the job that I took, it ended up being not the way I thought it would be. Like everything kind of, it seemingly conspired against me to push me into the fringes and make me not really want to interact and be social and deal with the world and deal with the city and be a part of the city. And some of the reasons were things like work, having extra responsibilities at work, having to work all through the day, every day, and just things like this. And also I had an overwhelming feeling within myself to really do some self-development and grow and learn some new things. So I really focused into that, and it really just pushed me out to the fringes, and I didn't really indulge in the social probabilities that a city can bring. So that ended up being just a 12th house experience for me, being in the city. And of course I'm here. This has 12th house written all over it. It, you know, places of deep reflection. And as I just mentioned, you can be around a lot of people, you can be in a huge crowd, but still feel like you're the only one there. That's how I felt when I was living in the city prior to coming here. So that's what's been going on for the past year for me. And that's what's been making this 12th house experience so profound for me. Those things that I just mentioned. And with the 12th house, I mentioned to you before, it's about helping you to see the things that you aren't really seeing, but other people are seeing, that may be holding you back, may be restricting you. And the prior job that I had working in the city, I had a setup where I was dealing with co-workers and clients. I was dealing with them, and it put me in a position where I had to really watch what I say and really watch how I move. And I guess, you know, prior to that, I was quite outspoken if I didn't really like something or agree with it. But of course, that's not always good. You can't be outspoken all the time. So, you know, you have to really assess the situation and understand all the working parts and make your move accordingly. But I wasn't really doing that. I was just kind of you know, being egotistical and just feeling that I could just push my will on things. And I realized that I couldn't do that. It became really apparent to me. The situation became apparent to me, and I was put in a situation where if I did do that, it would negatively influence or affect what I would be able to do in the future. And it became really apparent to me, and it was a really huge lesson for me. So yeah, this 12th house has shown me, you know, some hidden behaviors that have been holding me back, and I realized that was one of them. And a whole lot more that I can't really remember, because even though I mentioned that I didn't really have a social life, I was around people all the time. I just felt like I didn't have a social life. I was talking to people all the time, but I felt like I didn't have a social life. That's what the 12th house does to you. That's the type of situation that it puts you in, where you deal with these types of things. And here, where I am now, I moved out of the city early this year. It was in the city, and now I'm here. I'm in the countryside, rural area, beautiful place, nature. Mwah. And here, I'm I'm alone here. There's really not many people to talk to here. There are people to talk to, but you know they're spread out. They're spread out. It's a slow life. But here, uh, the situation it has put me in regards to, like, 12th house living, is that it is really the boredom, and I'm not bored, but I'm gonna call it boredom. I guess you don't the lack of things to do. It really makes you look inside for a lot of your inner resources and things that you have inside that you've been sleeping on, the powers, those hidden powers that you have, so to speak. And I've learned since I've been here, like I've done physical feats that I thought I wouldn't be able to do, and I've really unlocked some really powerful things within me, and that felt really good. So that's one thing with the 12th house, and also not just physical feats, but learning things. I've set quite a few goals with learning and physical fitness, all kinds of life goals and self development goals since I've been here, and I've been able to focus on them. And this is these are like the very powerful circumstances that allow me to do such a thing. And 12th house, that's what the 12th house is all about, things like that. And yeah, so it's helping me to really unlock and show me what I have inside, all my hidden potentials that I weren't able to focus on because of all of the distractions of the outside world and the demands of life. So yeah, that's 12th house. So now let me talk about the individual planets in the 12th house, and I guess I'll wrap this up. I have I'll start with Saturn first. Saturn has been in my 12th house for I think over 2 years. It's going to be out of my 12th house in a few months. So Saturn has been here in my 12th house for 2 years, and what that has been like for me. I know what Saturn represents, the type of energy it brings. It brings reality checks. It brings makes things real. It karma. It makes you step out of your dream world and step into reality, and it gives you some slaps in the face, so to speak. And I guess the one thing that I've noticed over the past couple of years that is different from any other parts of my life is that I think is a reality check is my physical body. The past 2 years has been the first time in my life where I've actually felt and really seen, like without any doubt, a change in my age. And I'm not saying that I feel old or anything like that. I'm saying that prior to that, I didn't feel like anything could hold me back. I didn't feel any limitations, but now I feel some of those limitations, and it's not a bad thing because I took the lesson. I wrote the lesson down. I understand the lesson, so it's a really powerful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and what I realized with that is that I will have to really focus on taking better care of myself. Eating better, changing my diet and lifestyle, and managing my stress. And as I mentioned before, like now, I've accomplished some things that I weren't able to accomplish, that I haven't accomplished in over in the past decade. So in some ways, I've gotten better. Age doesn't necessarily mean you decline, because I've gotten better. I'm proving that to myself. And Jupiter is the other planet that's in Capricorn right now in my 12th house, and Jupiter is about exposing to you the good things, those gifts that make you feel optimistic about life, the part of life that is in. And as I just mentioned to you before about where I am now, this place in isolation, last month I set a goal where I wanted to run 100 miles in 1 month, which I set that goal, which the most I've ever done in 1 month is like 70 miles. So I set the goal for 100 miles just to see if I could do it, just to really access some deeper parts of myself, reservoirs of strength, and so that I know that I have that, and I know how to access it, and I know what it's all about. And I'll talk about this type of thing more deeply in a future video, maybe the next video, about accessing our deeper frequencies and raising our vibrations. I'm going to talk about this type of thing. But with that, Jupiter was able to show me that I could really dig deep down inside of myself and overcome a lot to accomplish that. I ended up doing more than 130 miles in 1 month. Actually, I did it in about 25 days. I smashed what I set my goal up to be. And it really felt powerful. It really gave me a big confidence boost, and not just physical fitness, but every other part of my life. And it made me realize that I have a lot inside of me that I'm not accessing. So Jupiter, it allowed me to see that. It really allowed me to see that. And also, like I try to learn. I'm trying to learn a foreign language, and I'm able to really focus on that. There's no distractions here. There's no late nights. There's nothing that can throw you off or anything here. So I'm able to focus on that, and I've really gotten into character with it, and it's so much fun, and it's amazing. It's showing me that I can do it. Because prior, it seems kind of impossible, because you're trying to, learning a language isn't just something. It's not just a skill. It's social skill. It's being able to deal with people. And if you can't deal with people, no matter how smart you are, no matter how good your memory is, it's going to be really difficult for you to do. And I really had to dig down deep and really learn that it's going to take some really strong people skills, and I have to put the person first when you're dealing with something like learning a language, and really anything. Because we're here. This is a human experience, and you got to put the person first, even if you're trying to learn something. So I really learned that. It really, I think I attribute these things to Jupiter. Jupiter put me in a situation where I see how strong I am inside. 12th house is psychological, spiritual, that type of thing. So I was able to really look deep inside and access some of my deeper resources thanks to Jupiter. I think that's the effect that Jupiter had on it. And Pluto, I'll talk about Pluto. Pluto has been in my 12th house for ever since like 2007 or 2008, something like this. And I don't really remember what happened at that time that coincides with the Pluto transit of my 12th house. But the only thing I can think of is at that time I was competing. As a martial artist, I was competing. I was on the verge of becoming a professional, and I had some awakenings, some big reality checks and shocks at that time, and it made me decide to come here where I am, which I'm abroad. I'm in South Korea, and for the past 10 years I've been living in a few different countries and working from a few different countries. So I guess that was the transformation. Me pursuing that goal in martial arts, and it not playing out the way I wanted to play out, and me realizing that there was a whole other life beyond the horizon that I had not been to, that I hadn't been able to see or realize that it was there for me and it was possible. And I ended up being here, which I've been here for the past decade. And Pluto's going to be here for another few years, and I'm I'm really curious to see as how that's going to play out when Pluto moves out of my 12th house into my first house. And first house is a whole new you. Like, you did all of that inner work. You found you found all of your inner resources, all the hidden things. You were able to make all of those huge corrections within yourself, and really let loose your next reservoir, the reservoir of power that you have in order to go to the next level and do whatever you have to do next. Hopefully it made you more powerful in that way, so that you can really hit the ground running when you go to that next part of your life. So that's my experience with the 12th house, and I hope this helps. Yeah, so y'all caught me on the second half of my day, and that's pretty much a summary of what has gone down for me for the past year in regards to my 12th house and the energy of the planets that were there. I talked about basically 3 major planets: Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter. And there were 2 more planets that were there all at the same time. I don't remember exactly what they were. I made a video, a closer look at today's situation earlier this year about that, and I kind of talked about it. And what I haven't talked about in this video, and I guess I'll go over it really briefly and end things here, are my natal planets. I don't have any natal planets in my 12th house. I have one natal planet in my 12th house, and that's my moon. When I was born, the moon was in my 12th house. And for natal planets, wherever your natal planets were when you were born, that's the type of energy and character and persona that you put out, that you keep with you all through your life. You take this with you no matter what. The transiting planets, this energy comes and goes, but your natal planets, this energy stays with you. And I have my moon in my 12th house. So for me, like, what does that mean? What does the moon represent? Well, the moon is kind of like it's kind of the opposite of the sun. You know, the sun represents ego, the way we project ourselves out to the world, the way we shine, so to speak. But the moon is the way we feel inside. It's the part of us that no one really sees except for us. So it's how we feel comfortable. Think of the moon as you inside of your home. Inside of your home is the place where you really feel free. You feel like you can just really be yourself. Now with the sun's all about, you know, you stepping outside of your home to approach destiny and to do whatever you have to do to really make your mark on the world. But the moon is not like the sun. The moon is how you really feel comfortable inside. Things like instincts, intimacy, just comfort, things like this. So I guess for me, I always feel comfortable in situations of a 12th house nature or matter. And I've never really thought about this. I'm in the way that I'm thinking about it right now, but I guess that's why I feel comfortable. And I tend to feel comfortable in uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable circumstances. And when I say uncomfortable situations and circumstances, I guess I've been through things in life that have made me stronger, so when I come back to these things again, I'm able to face them better. And I'm talking about like physical fitness. I'm talking about dealings with people. I'm talking about lots of different things. I've had facing embarrassment and overcoming that and growing powerful from it, things like this. And I've never really thought about this in this way, but that's I guess it's an example of how a natal moon in your 12th house, how that plays out with the person. But I can only talk about the moon because my moon's there and I don't have any other planets there. So I'll wrap this up here talking about that. So yeah, I plan to make a video in the near future, maybe the next video, where it's gonna spin off this video because it was inspired by this video. And it's gonna be about accessing deep inner seats of power that we all keep within ourselves. And I did some experiments to kind of learn about this type of thing, and so that I could share it with you. Actually, I did it so I can understand it better myself, but I'm gonna share it with you. And I think I found some pretty good. I came to some pretty good conclusions, and I want to talk about those things, and really talk about it. It's basically about reaching potential and raising our vibrations, and really digging down deep, and being able to tap into ourselves, being able to dive into that reservoir and go deep at will. That's what I'm going to talk about next. So I hope to see you there, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching all the way through to the end. I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm gone.